A man sits on a train on his way home, the responsibility of a whole company on his shoulders. To his side, he notices a bored man playing with a calculator and has an idea. You might think you have heard this story before, but you're wrong, because what actually happened was a series of bizarre coincidences and miscommunications that would lead to one product that would change entertainment forever. This is that story. Brought to you by the Curiosity Stream and Nebula Bundle. It's the end of the 40s, and a certain young man called Hiroshi Yamauchi had just moved to Tokyo. He tells everyone he's here for university, but in reality, he's running away from the pressures of his family, who only seem to care about work and the family business. His plan was to stretch his university days as much as possible and live a careless life of hedonism and enjoyment. But it was not to be. Barely had he established himself in the new life when terrible news reaches him. His grandfather was dying, and his last wish was the worst thing that he could have come up with: leave the company to Hiroshi. The company was, of course, Yamauchi Nintendo, a card-making business. What the hell was he supposed to do with a card-making business? If he had been cursed with this company, he was going to drag it into the modern world, no matter how much the traditionalist employees of his own family screamed and kicked. Some of his ideas, like Western-style plastic cards and even a partnership with the Walt Disney Company, had proven tremendously successful. But decades pass, and he was getting pretty tired of being a card company. If they were to survive a new era, he needed to diversify, find new things to make. But he was not a product idea man. How in the world was he going to find the idea that will finally get him beyond cards? As he toured the card-making factory mindlessly, something incredible happened. What the You're the maintenance guy we recently hired. What the hell's that? I'm sorry, sir. This was just some toy I designed with spare parts on my free time. I promise I won't slack off today. Yes! 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 As you probably have figured by now, that maintenance man was called Gunpei Yokoi, and his amazing talents for making toys had quickly been put to work by Yamauchi. His first order was to turn his invention into the Ultra Hand, which will become an extraordinarily successful toy. Over the span of more than a decade, Yokoi's brilliant mind will bring forth an unprecedented number of innovative toys that will become staples of Japanese childhoods and turn Nintendo into a local toy-making giant. And even see them experimenting with electromechanical games for recreational parlors. But it all came crashing down abruptly. 1977, as he rides a train back from a business trip, Yokoi's thoughts linger on the delicate position of the company. He needs an idea for a hit product, and he needs it soon. Japan was barely recovering from a catastrophic oil crisis that had wrecked the economy and nearly bankrupted Nintendo's game efforts and basically rebooted the entire global tech industry. And I seem never to be able not to talk about this oil crisis because I have mentioned it in a million videos. It is in the same train ride when Yokoi notices an extremely bored businessman punching random numbers on his pocket calculator to pass time. This is an often repeated origin story for Nintendo's games, but there's a lot that has been misunderstood from that story. From the extensive research done by gaming historian Florent Gorges in his History of Nintendo, what Yokoi thought of was some sort of analog toy, nothing at all like the calculator the man was holding. But then his boss, Hiroshi Yamauchi, had an odd request. Yokoi-san, you drive a foreign car, right? With the wheel on the left? Yes, I do. What does that have to do with anything? The driver of my foreign limousine is sick, and you're the only person in the company that can substitute him, so come on. What? I'm not your driver. Oh, okay. Boss, I was watching a bored salaryman playing with his calculator in the train, and I think I got an idea for a product. We should make a small calculator-like size toy for people traveling. Oh, this is my stop. Can you take it around, please?
1 week later.
So, Yokoi, I want to introduce you to someone. This is my friend from Sharp Corporation to talk about your idea. My idea? What idea? Your idea of making toys for salarymen using calculator components. Calculator components? That's not what I meant. Wait. That could actually work. And just like that, over a series of coincidences and miscommunications, the idea of the portable electronic game came to be, with the calculator and tech company Sharp as the main technological partner in the project dubbed Microgame. Amazing. And now the hard part. They had to find a way to make this idea into a real product. It had to be a timeless aesthetic that would be fun to play, attractive to all ages, and be the size of a business card holder, so salarymen could play discreetly on the train, and be achievable using the limitations of current calculator components. The last bit was not a small consideration. The calculator processor they had access to was designed for an 8-digit calculator, with each digit utilizing 7 segments. Counting the dots and the minus sign, that means in total it could drive 72 segments. If you use 4 numbers to track the score, that is only 44 segments to make an entire game. Not an easy feat. But from these limitations, a juggling game called Ball was born, with 3 planned variations accessible through buttons. 2 problems arose though. The first was price. The device was on its way to a retail price of about 5,800 yen, which was higher than they would have desired for what is essentially a toy. The second is that, try as they might, Yokoi could not conceive of an alternate game mode for the third button. Eventually, he realized he could solve both problems with one solution. What if the third button turned the score counter into a clock? That way, it was no longer a slightly overpriced game, but a highly affordable digital watch. The micro game had become the Game & Watch. Now, the only thing standing in the way of the project was getting a full green light from Sharp. As Yokoi showed the prototype to the engineers at Sharp, they were less than enthusiastic. Look, I'm not going to lie, there are a number of engineering challenges we will have to solve here, and you're really sure you want to make a device using these parts? This calculator technology is ancient, it's nearly obsolete. Just think about it, okay? I'm going to leave our prototype here so you can try it when you like. And wouldn't you know, on the next meeting the engineers had changed their tone. Maybe they had their fun with the device and realized the value of what they had been handed. Playing is believing. Either way, the experience of Sharp engineers combined with Yokoi's ingenuity made it possible to solve every issue they had encountered, including the tendency for the filters to generate the very annoying neutral ring optical effect, which Yokoi reportedly solved by creating small indentations in the screen, which he achieved using Nintendo's card cutting machines. That led to the characteristic dot pattern that all Game & Watch devices have. The game was ready to start production. But as Yokoi presents his new product to Yamauchi, his reaction is disconcerting. Just one? You moved this many people in Nintendo and Sharp to make one product? Do you want me to make another? You know making products in even numbers is bad luck. Make me 3 models! And so Game & Watch will release with 3 games: Ball, Flag, and Vermin. Optimistic, Nintendo set an estimate of 100,000 units sold in 3 years, which will make it a very successful toy, and as it hits store shelves, Yokoi holds his breath and waits. The first set of Game & Watch devices will sell 100,000 units in 2 months, with kids being the biggest fans, which was a surprise given the aim at businessmen and the high price. As you can imagine, this will launch Yokoi into a design frenzy that will have him create so many models and series of Game & Watch devices that there are entire encyclopedias on it. More importantly, the enormous hit coincided with another small miracle: the creation of the Donkey Kong arcade game that will be a smash hit in America. Together, these 2 products help Nintendo pay its debts and replenish its coffers, convincing Yamauchi to start an irreversible process that will finally turn Nintendo into what it was destined to be: a video game company, and for a long while, the video game company. However, the important bit for today is that it was this very arcade hit that will inspire one of the most bizarre and influential stories of this time. While attempting to quench Yamauchi's never-ending desire for more Game & Watch products, Yokoi set to design a Game & Watch adaptation of the hit arcade game. The problem was how to adapt the arcade joystick. Some of Yokoi's attempts to solve the problem, such as a tiny joystick covered with rubber, will lead to undesired results. Apparently, employees at Nintendo will dub this one the Opai Gara Controla, the boob-shaped controller, so yeah, that was not going to work. So he replaced it with 4 buttons, 1 for each direction. But since Yokoi was concerned that there was no tactile way to feel which direction you were going to, he added a hard plastic cross, and he invented the D-pad, quite possibly the most influential input method for games ever. eventually making it the standard for Nintendo consoles as well, but that is another video I already made. Funnily enough, he had no idea what he had just invented, to the point that when a Nintendo employee from the legal department asked him to sign the document to patent it, he said he was too busy and just to sign it himself. So it is the name of that legal assistant, Ichiro Shirai, the one that will appear in the patent to this day instead of Yokoi's. Wow. With hundreds of different products designed and millions in sales, it is fair to say Yokoi at the moment did not have time to precisely ponder on the mistake, and while other rising products will start challenging his position as the top dog of Nintendo, it will be his attempt at a next generation Game & Watch that will set him on a path that will lead to his end. But that is a story that continues in my Game Boy saga, which is now complete. His original set of products will, however, leave a mark on the philosophy of Nintendo that can be tracked still today. And he created a character that one could argue has its own legacy. But would you have guessed that this guy was based on a real-life person? Because among Yokoi's team, there was one artist who silently was responsible for a big part of the Game & Watch aesthetic, and him and his unexpected inspiration will end up being a secret force for the creation of a character many love even today. So that is the topic I have chosen for this episode of SideQuest. SideQuest is a series where I explored side topics of each video. So if I make a video about the Game Boy Pocket and how it led to Yokoi leaving the company, the SideQuest is about how that triggered the creation of the Game Boy camera, or in the case for this video, the story of the inspiration behind Mr. Game & Watch. And SideQuest is only part of the exclusive high-quality content I am uploading to Nebula, a streaming service put together by creators for creators, so we can create our best content without dealing with the limitations of YouTube